Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and Adam and ready to go and action and all that. Me, Skimmy and Max about to bring you the goods, the goss that is Antic up against Fury. It's going to be a pretty stellar game. We haven't seen too much of Antic so far this split, considering the big names that they are bringing back into the LCO, and we want to see what they're going to be able to do up against the likes of Fury. But let's look at Antic first and see who's going to be playing in the Rift today. Antic, of course, led by the big man in mid, Ryoma, King, his name speaks volumes, Dragcoot, never heard of him, Swiper, ooh, damn, handsome individual, and Zoranus, of course, he's been here the whole time through LCO, and he's going to be controlling things up top. Max, who's the best player on this team, just to cause some controversy?
You can't make me say
yeah, mate.
no. Yep. Honestly, Mac, I couldn't tell you. That's my answer, because they're all good. They're all great, in fact.
Political.
This team, the reason they're so good is because they have so much experience in every single role. I mean, Swiper, yes, he's new to the jungle role, but even then, he's been playing League since, probably since I was in grade 6, professionally, that is, right? This guy has so much experience, so much in a team environment as well. And across the board, Ryoma, King, just some of the most storied talent that we've ever had in this region all together on the one roster. So it's been a shame that we haven't been able to see them really in action besides the 2 games up until now. But I'm sure that once they get on a roll, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with.
They certainly will be. Give me any thoughts on Antic and what they're going to be able to do up against the likes of Fury today?
Well, it's weird, right? Because we've only had that one series to go off against. They went up against Ground Zero and really gave them a tough run for their money. I think the most standout thing for me in that series was that the early game looked a little bit shaky at best, but you'd bet your house they'd always win in the late game. They always found a way to bring it back in the late game, and I think that's going to be an interesting case then as to how Fury can look to try and tackle that. Will they look to try and play a very early, aggressive style and put the pressure on, and will they sort of fall to the same fate? Because for Tomasino, Nox, Chirp, Hooper, and Findo, with them now having Findo as their starting support, they've looked a lot stronger. They've looked like a much more cohesive team, and they've certainly been keen to experiment with different ideas. Now, I'd say for Tomasino, he's certainly been one to also experiment with the likes of an Udi at top. But for Nox, he's been the most interesting one, right? Because he came in as a very much carry, full clear jungler, but in recent weeks has changed up his tune and said, look, I'll play Xin, I'll play Trundle, I'll be there to help out. Okay, so we need to just keep an eye on a couple of these individuals, what you're telling me, because things have changed across the weeks. Max, who's your player to watch on this team right now?
My player on this team is going to be Tomasino. I think that he is someone who's always been leveling up as we go on throughout the games, and I think these last couple of weeks have been no exception, right? I think he is certainly capable of going toe-to-toe with some of the better players in lane. We already saw, I mean, his most, at least in my eyes, his most kind of prestigious series was against Zoranus last split, right? Where he was actually able to kind of take down this guy who we all had heralded as one of the best top laners in the league. So if he's able to kind of recreate that level of performance today, I'm sure the top lane is going to be very exciting to watch.
Okay, well, we'll see if that's exciting or not. But for the moment, let's talk Antic and the storied histories of these individuals. So, Skimmy, you've been around for a while now, probably the longest out of all of us in the competitive scene. But these players, they've been around for years before you as well, haven't they?
Well, they have, and this feels like a weird position to be in, right? Usually this would be a segment owned by Rusty, who would have all the experience and has literally been there along for the ride with all of these players. But as you quite rightly see, you're seeing a lot of these players, they've been either on the team together in the past, or they've been surrounded by multiple members that have gone on to do fantastic things. You can see the likes of Balkan, Rogue, and even FBI in that photo there, or in that video there, rather, right? They've been overseas, they've been to the LCS, they've been to the LEC, they've come back and, you know, shown that, look, we still have it together. We're going to form this super team. And I think that's why there's so much hype around them, why it's been so disappointing to only see, 2 games out of these players, because, you know, they win titles, they win trophies. You can see King there, he's won 5 in his entire career. That's tied for the second most in the region, right? So this is a player that would be looking to get 6th, looking to become, you know, arguably the most storied individual on this team. And I think you look at the likes of Dragku and Zoranus, and they're the players that don't have as much experience compared to the rest of the team. But even Dragku, right, played so well. He got to play for TSM. So, I mean, this is a team that have come together and shown that, look, we have all this experience, we have all these trophies, but can we make it work as a 5-man? So far, so good.
So far, so good. There is, as you mentioned, just a wealth of knowledge between all these individuals. Swiper went and worked as a coach overseas for a little while as well, right?
Yep.
With Golden
so he
Guardians.
was coaching as well, comes back, just, you know, lets everyone know who the Giga Chad is. And speaking of Giga Chads, we have Dragku on the line. Mate, it's been a hot minute. And oh, you're looking. What's going on with the hair? That's not your natural color.
Oh yeah, I actually tried to go silver, but as you can see, it didn't go too well. So like now I'm blonde. So yeah.
Blonde. Yeah, we'll go with that. Me and Skimmy, we're also blonde.
We're
as
also
well.
blonde.
But
yeah.
look, how you feeling going into today's game? Do you think Fury's just going to be a stepping stone? Is it going to be a bit of a whitewash, or do you think, you know, maybe it'll be a competitive one?
Yeah, I mean, I never usually disrespect my opponents like, you know, that much. I hope.
Don't you?
But I don't. You know, I respect all my opponents. So I think today, I hope it's going to be a banger. But I don't know. They have a new support, so I think Toppy was better. You know, hashtag justice for Toppy. But yeah, we'll see what Findo can do. You know, but he's not going to beat me. Like, there's no way. Sorry.
Okay, well, we'll see if that statement rings true or not at the end of the night. But Skimmy, anything for Dracu?
Well, of course, Dracu, mate, you've been around playing support for a hot minute now, and I've always been excited when especially when you move from top lane into bot and you start to try and use all these creative picks, right? We sort of like Set, for example. I've always asked, you know, when are we going to get these spicy champions? For a long time, you're like, look, I'm just slamming Yuumi, but is there anything spicy that you've discovered in 14? So you don't have to tell me, but is there anything spicy you're going to showcase to say, look, there is a reason why I'm the better support than you, Findo?
Yeah, well, honestly, I've been cooking a lot in scrims. You know, maybe a bit too much. You know, playing a bit of Dr. Mogdo. You know, yeah. I'm actually pretty tired today because I just want to flex on everyone that I was squatting 144 reps. And I'm jacked on pre still, but you know, I see you Maximize. I know you can do more, bro.
Oh yeah, nah man, I'm not hitting that. Look, I do have a question for you before we go. You guys have only played 2 stage games. It's week 4. Is that something that's affected you guys? Do you feel like you'd be wanting to play more, or are you completely fine with kind of keeping it a little bit hidden?
Okay, honestly, I was actually very sad that our game got postponed last week, but it is what it is because I'm always excited to play, and I have to like prep myself mentally for like the whole day. Like, I don't know, I'm just kind of like that guy where it takes me like a whole day to get ready, like my mindset to play games. So I was very hyped up last week, but you know, unfortunately it just didn't happen. So it is what it is. So.
Right, so instead of just being hyped up, you took pre-workout for this week. That's good to know. Anyway, Dracu, look, we'll let you go, mate. Enjoy the bot lane, and we'll see how you do.
Kebab.
Kebab. What, you get one after this?
Dono kebab. Dono kebab.
What?
Kebab. Alright, peace, guys.
I was literally waiting for production to drag him off quicker, but they let him have his
Yeah.
face. They let him say the thing.
That could have been dangerous. He could have said Holy Trinity. He could have said garlic sauce is better than the barbecue and the chili. He could have said some very hot topics.
Definitely could have.
But he didn't.
He didn't.
Just showed his love for a little bit of babby goodness. Now, anything that he said there that tickled either of yours fancy?
Dr. Mundo support, that's what got me perked up and interested in thinking, all right, my man really is cooking in the bot lane, but I feel like if there was anything that he would try and bust out, it would maybe be like a Scion Senna, like a Maokai bot lane, for example. I feel like it would definitely be off guard, but it might not be as crazy as he's maybe doing in scrims. So I'm going to hold reserved interest at the moment.
Okay, well, we'll see if any other secrets get shown during the game that he didn't mention just then. But we've got Tomasino on the line from Fury. Mate, I'm hearing good things about you. Tell me about yourself, because I haven't had a chance to meet you personally. I'm loving what you're doing with your face, mate. I'm loving this beard. It's looking very well groomed. You're looking very well kept. Is that the secret?
Look, I'm thinking about shaving it off. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know if I should keep it, but I'm liking how it's going right now. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
Look, arguably, it's been a very hot summer, so you should have done that probably 30 days ago rather than now. But look, let's talk shop. Let's talk this game. What are you feeling like today? Do you think you've got a very good chance up against the likes of Antic, or do you think it's going to be a tough fight?
Look, if I didn't go in confident, then what's the point of going in at all? You know, if I think that we're gonna lose, then there's no point showing up. So I'm here thinking we're gonna win, thinking we're gonna give it to them, you know, as best as we can. So that's what I'm here to do, and we'll see, you know.
Very good, very good. Skimmy, anything for the big Sino?
Yeah, well, I mean, last time you went up against Zoranus, you certainly gave him a tough battle. Were you sort of surprised, I suppose, that Zoranus was going to be the top laner, given that the roster's shaken up a little bit? And I suppose also there's not really much prep that you've had to go off, right? Because I've only played 2 games.
I didn't hear very many things about Zoranus moving up, but I mean, look, he's been in the top of the top laners for so long in the region. So not gonna sit here saying that I'm not slightly nervous, but always gonna be a good showdown versus my boy Zoranus.
Surely it's as simple as you just locking in the Renekton and bidding on Jax again. Is that the play here?
The meta might have changed just a little bit, so maybe we're not looking at those champions now. But if that matchup ever comes, I can tell you that I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, awesome, mate, awesome.
Look, confidence is key, and a confident man is Max, mate. You've got any questions about confidence or even League of Legends, maybe?
You just mentioned about the meta. I wanted to get your take on it, because I think 14.2, there's so much more stuff you can play in top lane, right? We've seen Darius, Zac, Udyr, Karma, all this sort of stuff come out. Do you like it? Are you a fan?
I can't complain about the diversity, having played only Cassante Udyr for like 4 weeks, seeing these new champions rise up. I honestly can't be one to complain, I finally get to play some champs that actually do damage, and I can actually take a lead in some of the games, so it's actually kind of nice to see rather than having to sit back and just click E as Udyr on random heads, which is kind of nice.
True, very true. Now look, Thomas, mate, we'll let you go. Get ready for the game. Good luck in this series, because you might need it. Who knows?
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Catcher.
Beauty.
Now, first things first, I really hope he doesn't shave that beard, because it's a good looking beard.
Yeah.
Getting one that's that like trimmed and like well kept is actually difficult. If you've ever grown one, you'd know. Max, I'm looking at you.
I can't
Still got
grow
a baby
one.
face.
Are you serious, man? I can't grow one either, bro. This is like, that's the best we're getting.
Yeah, but look at your jawlines. I don't have that. It's taking me
We're just baby-faced.
Right.
I'll just cover mine up. Look, we got side select coming through. Blue side, absolutely no surprises for both these teams. And moving into our predickies. Where do we think Twitch chat's going to say this one's going?
I feel like they're all going to be on the bandwagon because they're hungry to see some Antic gameplay. They're all going to be jumping right on that bandwagon for sure, Mac. There's no contest.
Yep. No contest at all. Up there, by the way, guys. Gamba, get your points in. Don't make me read the random auto-generated words again, because that got really, really damn weird earlier. But our predictions are probably going to be all similar. Am I right? Am I wrong? I'm right. And Antic, we all think that the experience is just going to look that little bit too good today. 2-0s for Antic for all of us, and me and Max all tied up. Twitch chat still a little bit further ahead. Skimmy, what happened? Did you just...
Look, I think
go
the very
crazy?
first few weeks, I gambled on there being draws, like 1-1s, and then it never happened. Then Fido came on the broadcast, and I said, look, we don't have draws in this region. Then draws happened. So I kind of griefed a little bit, but I'm hoping for the late game comeback, either later in the season or the playoffs. Playoffs is usually a good time to come back.
That's true. I remember back when I was doing all the LCO, when it was best of threes, it was very, very, very rare we went to 3 games.
Well,
Very
that's it.
rare.
Exactly.
It was just always 2-0s, so it almost felt like a troll when you went for the old draw, sort of thing. Either way, look, are we expecting anything crazy out of these guys? Of course, we did get that Hui earlier. Did you like what you saw with it getting selected, or
I think it was great.
Do you think it still needs a little bit more work?
I think it was great, especially into that matchup. I think, yeah, you can really play probably any mage converted into a support in the bot lane, because all your job is to do is just deal damage, completely nullify the bailout. And you saw how many times it was literally a case of Nebula saying, I'm down to 50%, we had to fight, we're just losing to poke. The Varus, the Hui is doing too much to us, all in. I mean, we even saw it from level 1 Mac as a flash forward of a handshake. It's probably the most crazy thing I've seen from Renata. Even they were in their head rent-free about how scary it's going to be. So I think it's a cool champion. In terms of what we might see in this bot lane, I think if Ashe gets left through, we know that Findo's really, really good. He's a bit of a sniper, had a bit of an aimbot on that one. Every single arrow cross-map was landing, so there's potential for that to make life easier. But I think Hooper especially has got his work cut out for him. He's really going to struggle, I feel like, into King.
Okay. Well, we'll see. The Hooper, the little man, was certainly an up-and-comer when I was here about a year ago, and Rusty's favourite, Rusty's little protege. We'll see if he's going to be able to go up against one of the greatest to ever do it from our region. So, look, time shall tell, time shall tell. Now, what do you think Hooper's going to be picking? Because I remember he was playing a lot of Aphelios and kind of turbo smurfing.
Yep.
A little bit of... What happened to, oh, what's the name? Zap girl.
Zeri.
Oh, Zeri.
Zeri. What
Nerfed
happened to
to
Zeri? Is she out of
oblivion.
the meta at the moment?
Nerf.
Gone.
Unplayable.
Okay, because she was definitely meta, like a year ago. What happened? Just nerfs to everything?
So
or
broken
what?
that literally you'd lock in the champion, you were guaranteed a pentakill. So I think Riot were just like, it's too much. They just nerfed it into oblivion, and then we've gone from that to just play poke and harass. So swings and roundabouts, I suppose, Mac.
Okay, so what do we expect Hooper to go for? Like that Aphelios or something a bit different?
Varus, one game. Kalista, the other. That's what he's going to play.
Okay.
I'm 100% locked on that.
Do we like Varus at the moment in the LCO? I need a bit of a vibe check. 'cause
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys-
Yeah.
Yeah?
After last game, yes.
Okay. A bit more of that?
I prefer on-hit Varus. Well, actually, if I'm being super spicy, I prefer AP Varus. Yeah, that's the only way you kill Udyr. It's probably AP Varus.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's
100%
see if we're
health.
going to get
Q.
any of that and more because Champ Select's ready. Time for game 2.
Beautiful. Well then, let's jump into the draft and see what happens. Finally, we're into action with Antic up against Fury. And this is the tax you have to pay into Nox, especially, right? The Belvev has to be removed, as well as the Xin, which has also been his go-to. It is worth mentioning, right, this is Swiper still in the jungle. He's not a jungler. This is a guy that's built his entire career being a very established top laner. He gave us one game of Poppy, one game of Java into somebody like Schönfire, and he performed beautifully.
And you do wonder how this will affect the draft, right? The fact that Swiper, because of his inexperience, likely does have some champion depth issues. You wonder whether these two jungle bans coming out early will signify the fact that they want to go towards something like a Jarvan earlier on, something nice and reliable for him to be able to pick up. But speaking of something nice and reliable, this champion has been around for as long as King has been dominant, which is quite a while, and he has always had an affinity for this champion. So to pick up this champion right out of the gate on the 1P signals to me that they want to play very aggressively around this bot lane.
100%, given the fact that Varus is still up and available, but the preference in this case has been we want to go for the Kalista, so there is the expected trade. And a curious prospect also with Fury banning away not only the Ashe themselves, but also the Seraphine, perhaps anticipating some Senna Seraphine shenanigans, or perhaps even the Karma too. Now, for all the work that Thomas discussed about being bored of this champion, once again, it's just too good. So if it's up and available, you might as well take it.
It's one of those things where, you know, you complain about the system, but you also still live within the system, and that is exactly what playing Udyr is like, right? Especially when you see that Kalista picked on that first blue side B1, you have to take that away, right? It's just too valuable to have in terms of the pure damage it's able to absorb. Now, the question for me is, what does Zoranus go towards? Because out of all the players in the league, I'd say him and TN are the most likely to pull out something weird in the top lane.
They certainly are.
Something like a Darius, something like a Fiora that can really actually shut down this Udyr and maybe even kill him.
Look, we've certainly seen him in the past get a little bit too crazy with it, right? We've seen him play Janna when it was that crazy meta for a while, right? The roaming smite Janna. We've had him play even a Teemo in the top lane. So he's not afraid to get crazy with it to try and find his expected matchup or his response. But Roma gets his hands on the Orianna. And this is a champion that in the last series was absolutely permabanned, but a beautiful mid-jungle combination to guarantee that wombo.
I mean, Orianna is just fantastic to have with any jungler, right? It makes engaging so much easier. You combo that with the fact that it has a very nice laning phase into almost every single matchup, especially for someone like Ryoma, who is so proficient on the champion. It really creates a champion who's quite versatile, quite good at everything. So expect a lot of play around this mid lane early, especially once that shockwave becomes available. Certainly some big wombo combos coming out from this mid jungle.
Certainly should be the case, especially when the Empress Divide from the Azir can do just the same as well. You'd imagine with a jungler there to assist and impact, things could get quite exciting. Actually, the Huibang comes out here as they've decided not to go for the Renata pairing with that Kalista, and perhaps just really biding their time thinking, okay, we want to see a little bit more about your bot lane before we decide to lock in ours.
You'd imagine that the Hui ban is kind of almost baiting Antic into banning the Renata themselves because they want to deny that sort of counter matchup, but I imagine that Antic are quite happy. You know, even if you do let the Renata go through, you have a Renata Varus, you'd still be happy if that eventually falls through picking it up yourself, right? So I think that if Antic don't really care too much about this, they'd rather focus on the jungle, they'd rather take away Nox's champions, because we have seen that, you know, in the earlier weeks, Nox wasn't really too sure of himself, right? He was able to counter jungle, but he wasn't really able to have the greatest impact on the team fights in general. So if you're able to limit his champion pool even more, you can make it a bit nicer for Swiper, make it a bit more of a standard game, and allow Ryoma, allow King on these carry champions to have their way with the game.
Well, I mean, right on the money you are there. Look at that. It's essentially 5 bans in the jungle because the Poppy's been banned by Fury. But for Antic, they've said, look, you've denied our champion pool. We'll deny yours in that same vein. I love the Zyra ban too. Also, similar kind of sentiment as to why you'd want to sort of deny the way, right? All that poke, harass, that annoyance in the bot lane that can really get a Kalista ahead. But that begs the question, when the champion pools have been pinched, what is left up and available? And Nox seemingly going to settle for the Wukong.
Yeah, Wukong's a pretty decent champion into something like the Kalista, right? Because of the short range that Kalista has, you'll often be fighting into Wukong's range, and he absolutely loves that, able to stack up his passive, able to use his decoy as well to kind of get himself out of dodge there. It is a champion we haven't really been seeing too much on this patch, purely because stuff like Vi, Jarvan, and Jin Zhao just do the jobs a little bit better. But the response still remains to be seen from Antic, right? Whether they do want to put this Maokai towards the jungle or pick up their own support here. We know Draku talked about the fact that he was cooking before, but with Renata open and with Kalista already picked, you'd have to imagine there's a strong preference for that.
For sure, and it just seems far too good to let slip through the cracks there. So whilst he will hover that barge, you'd imagine it is going to be a return to the Renata here. But also, the Gnar has been locked in here for the top lane matchup. So Zominus, a champion he's very familiar with, very comfortable on as well. I'm going to try to utilize that ranged advantage into the Udyr.
Yeah, Gnar is kind of just a staple for top laners. It never really falls out of the meta completely. It's always there as this sort of fringe pick when you need something that's both stable in lane, but also able to provide value in team fights, right? With the massive CC you're able to provide from something like the Mega Gnar. Now, it's interesting what Findo actually wants to go for here, because there are a couple of routes, right? You can pick something like a Heimerdinger, pick something like that to be able to take over the lane. Instead, he's going to opt for the more supportive version, the Milio. So this signals to me that, you know, they're not looking to kind of dominate this lane. They are accepting that the Kalista Renata is going to be a very strong pairing in the 2v2, and rather they're going to play for the scaling, they're going to be playing for those team fights.
100%. Definitely going to be playing for the team fights, right? Whilst the Heimerdinger can look to try and add volatility to that bot lane and perhaps even swing the balance in your favor, the Breath of Life, the ultimate Demilio, is going to be absolutely invaluable from cleansing out of all the CC, especially that hostile takeover. So I like it. It's a good addition and a good way to try and open this one up. And I'm curious, I suppose, as to what build we go for, right? Because with the Demilio, it certainly opens up the door, much like a Renata, to perhaps consider the on-hit, but Varus has very much, or Varus players rather I should say, have very much lent towards the lethality and just utilizing that extra range.
Yeah, the extra range is certainly nice against the Orianna, against the Kalista. Obviously, you do have a bit of a range advantage regardless versus the Kalista in lane, so you are able to kind of have your way in that sense. But however, because he has that Milio paired with him, we're not really expecting too much lane dominance to come out. So it would be interesting to see him go that more on-hit build and opt for the straight 5v5. But like you said, the lethality Varus is just so good at playing from range. You're not really getting into those close situations. You're kind of saving your KDA in a sense, but also minimizing the risk that you're able to take. So depending on how upfront they want to get with this Wukong, with this Azir that they do have picked, could go for the on-hit, could go for the lethality.
Considerations, and we'll wait to see what does in fact get locked in. And a fun fact I just quickly found out there for Zorinus, his most played champion is in fact Gnar. 14 games of it, 7 wins, 7 losses, so lucky number 15 for him today.
The tiebreaker.
This will be the tiebreaker, right? Can you beat Udyr? Because if you can, it's your best champion.
I wonder how he's going to part it, right? Because we see Gnar, when he comes back into meta, there are often kind of two different types of Gnar that you see. You see the split push Gnar, you see this Gnar who doesn't really want to leave the side lane, kind of staying in mini, hitting turrets, and you know, especially with the changes to Void Grubs, with those being a way to potentially accelerate your objective taking, with the changes to Hull Breaker coming through as well, whether you want to use that to your advantage on a high attack speed character to kind of just blitz through these turrets, that's certainly an option too. Or you go towards a more traditional Gnar where you're building around team fighting, where you're building around playing for those massive 5v5. So certainly a lot of flexibility in the way that Zorinus is able to play this matchup.
Well, it's a good consideration. He certainly has had a bit of a mixed bucket in terms of what's been popular for him, be it the random wins for the all-out team fight, the massive ultimates into multiple members, or in fact the Hull Breaker, right? So I'm curious to see what his approach is going to be, because we've certainly seen that an Udyr that gets ahead will decide to group up. Certainly will not be taking into any Hull Breaker themselves and will be an absolute menace. But here are your rosters. We're locked in for our second series of the night. Only the second series that Antic have played. So more stage experience for them and more entertainment for the viewers at home. A massive ask though for Fury though. Currently sat in 5th spot, 2 wins, 0 draws and a single loss. And they'll be hoping to break the deadlock as they are found tied with Antic.
It is a big ask for Fury, but this is the first time we're actually seeing Antic after their initial series, right? So perhaps a little bit fresh, perhaps a little bit not used to this stage. Obviously, that feels a bit ridiculous to say when you consider the resumes that these players have, but you do wonder whether Fury will be able to take advantage of the few more games that they've played and perhaps come in swinging.
So what would you expect, I suppose, Max, if we set the sort of stage, the scene of what an early game should look like? Where are we wanting to really try and track now?
So the most important thing here is to secure the early game for your bot lane, right? We can already see the King and Draco actually doing something pretty interesting around this mid lane here. I wonder whether they would try to look for a late invade with this Maokai towards the bot side or potentially even look in mid lane here. It looks like it's going to be the former option that they're going to go for. So this is actually a really smart invade. It's not often warded because you are sitting in that mid rush, right? No one really expects you to come from that way at 1:30 at the time that they did go. So just going to be a nice little invade. Get Swiper ahead early on. It will be spotted out though. And you have to assume, Skimmy, the fact that this Maokai isn't starting his own blue buff in this matchup kind of signals to me that they're looking for something on the other side of the map.
It seems to be the case right now, but they're going to walk in behind enemy lines and just hit them with the handshake and say, can we burn any summoners? Well, we cannot, but we can get a massive HP chunk and say this bot lane was already going to be pretty rough for you. Now try and endure it without any HP and also having to sacrifice that level 2.
It's not only without any HP, it's also without your jungler, right? Because of that level 1 that Antic choose to go for, they end up map splitting, right? So Wukong is going to be forced to head towards this top side if he wants to kind of trade off the blue buffs. Otherwise, he's going to end up sacrificing and only get 3 camps for his whole clear. And you can see, this just speaks to the pedigree of these players, right? This is a pure macro decision, but it already has netted them such a huge advantage in this early game.
It certainly has. The Swiper picks up the Grump, the vision revealing that he has in fact just done that. So big decision now as to what Nox wants to do. Does he continue his path down bot or does he make the risk and go into top lane? Because as it stands right now, Roma has a monumental lead, which is going to make it hard for Chirp to assist him. But as for top lane, Tomasino can certainly do what Udyr does best.
It feels like every mid lane we've seen today has just been an absolute trade fest, right? Neither mid laner has potions, and there's only wave 3 that we've just seen completed, right? So you can see that both mids are very willing to get the pushes. Chirp actually goes into Ryoma here. Nox is here too.
Getting very aggressive out, goes to decoy, instant flash to deny vision as he gets lost in that brush. And the aggression pays off quite nicely, but it does mean that that first gank nets himself a summoner.
So you trade the flash, but ultimately Nox is left in a pretty poor position, right? Because he chooses to go for that mid lane play, he's not actually able to counter invade. So this Wukong is going to just have a lot of idle time to walk around his jungle here. You can see that there is a ward in the river that will spot him if he goes to Scuttle Crab. So yes, you get a flash, but really, I do not think that's a worthy trade.
Well, yeah, it feels like that gamble of like, well, your bot lane, or rather your bot side of your jungle has already been cleared out. I need to try and catch myself back into this by getting a successful gank. You can see that he's already hovering back in mid lane again, but it's on vision. They're well aware of this one. Roma's not going to fall victim to that again, and you're going to see the rest of the lanes continue to bleed. Bot lane, as to be expected, certainly is Kalista favored. I'm really curious how Nox get back into this one, because right now Swiper's having an absolute field day just farming up a treat.
Well, that's the thing. He has absolutely no priority, right? He's not able to walk into the enemy red buff because of how far behind his bot lane is. And you can see that just off the back of that level 1 play and the fact that they have priority in these lanes, it creates such a hard environment for Wukong. Wukong is a horrible champion at kind of providing any setup before level 6, right? He really needs that Cyclone to come online. So the longer you can deny it if you are the side of Antic, the happier you are.
Well, they certainly are going to try and deny it as much as they can. They know that Nox is in a bit of a hole right now, and even Zoranis is getting himself amongst it with the boomerang to try and steal. He'll net himself some of the minis, but ultimately they say, we're fully aware of where you are because we've taken the camps that you're looking to try and expect.
Yeah, they've taken absolutely everything, so they know where he can't be and where he can be, and even using the fact that Zoranis has that priority, crashes the wave, and then goes and wards the Kruggers as well. It's just a very hard game for this Wukong to actually get back into. You can see the King already up 20 CS and only 5 minutes into this game. They've already taken a play and are well on their way to get the second one as well. It's just complete domination in this bot lane.
Yeah, and so strong, in fact, that Draku can freely rotate, and it's not really impacting King's success in this lane, right? He can hold his own 1v2, which not too common. Certainly is much more of an Ezreal or Jhin kind of strategy, but that just really points to the proof of how well these first 5 minutes have gone, and I suppose the level 1 strategy for them to go for that initial invade on blue.
Yeah, so they will take the Dragon as a result of their bot lane priority. However, it will be traded towards for the Void Grubs that Nox is now taking. This kind of, I guess, enables and helps him out a little bit, I guess, as the Wukong, you know, because previously you would only have the Rift Herald. Chirp tanks a Shockwave. But the addition of these Void Grubs actually provides you something to do in your idle time, right? You can see that Nox is waiting for his camps to respawn, so he's able to head down towards that objective and able to pick that up, so he's not completely wasting his time while Swiper takes that Dragon.
He's not going to be able to find a third one, however. Can pick up 2 and then recall back to base to get himself his first purchase of the game to keep pace and keep strength above all else, right? Back to base, picks up a Warhammer, a little bit of extra damage to make sure that once level 6 does come around, he can be a bit of a menace. But 2 stacks, certainly a nice start. No reveal to the rest of Antic, so they'll still be unsure as to if that full camp is ready to be taken. And I think Swiper in just a second might be able to figure that one out.
Yeah, Swiper is heading up there towards that top side of the map. Doing a decent job of just clearing his jungle, right? At this point in the game, you don't really need to make anything happen because your lanes are winning by themselves. The biggest thing you need to do is make sure that your lanes don't collapse, right? You need to make sure that this Kalista doesn't suddenly get ganked and the lanes flip on their head. But right now, you can see that all Nox wants to do is farm. He doesn't want to spare any time going towards his bot lane, because if he does, he's going to get counter juggled, he's going to lose his red and be put even further behind, right? So it's a lose-lose situation at this point because of how well Antic are playing.
Yeah, and it sort of harks back to his debut when he played the game of Diego, being called a very proficient carry player and spent the majority of the game just farming. In this case, he doesn't really have a choice, which is the irony behind it all, because you certainly want to get amongst it once that Cyclone is there, but he's desperately farming to hit sticks as quickly as he can. And I suppose really at that point, you're hoping that you can find a fight that works in your favor, a skirmish around maybe an over-aggressive laner, or perhaps towards that second Dragon in a few minutes' time. But as it stands right now, he's just trying to hold his own and make sure that doesn't waste any more time by trading a flash for a game that doesn't work their way.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, if you do end up wasting much more time, you are just going to be completely out of the game, right? You can already see that he's 3 camps down to Swiper, who is sitting pretty comfortable on this Maokai here on the bot side of the map. And all Swiper has to do now, he's the easiest job in the world, because he just clicks into that brush in bot lane and just waits. He waits for any potential gank that Wukong potentially could arrive and just allows his bot lane to do this. This is a Kalista with serrated Dirk. Absolutely shreds through these squishies on the side of Fury.
Yeah, and I think Hoop has already realized that this lane is feeling a little bit doomed, a little bit despaired. Doran's Blade into a Cull as he just wants to stack, he just wants to farm. He just wants to do whatever he can to sustain himself through this rough affair, because really, at the 8-minute point, Antic are looking to try and say, let's just get the first tower.
Yeah, that's looking likely. I mean, they've already gotten 3 plates. This will likely be 4, potentially after the next wave comes in and hits the turret. And now, how do you actually break this as Fury, right? What are you actually getting back on the other side of the map? You can see that this Gnar is really in no position to die. He does have that double hop available. He will have flash as well, and you've only got an Udi for gank setup, so that's not a very viable target. The only thing you could really head towards is mid lane, right? Potentially add a Shuriva Shuffle. But then you look at the HP bars, and Azir is 200 HP catching waves under his turret, so unfortunately Nox going to have to return back to farming out of necessity.
Yeah, it's just a really awkward spot to be in, right? You saw him potentially look at top lane there, but you're thinking a Mega Gnar, maybe just 1v2s. It's not a fight that you'd really want to entertain. So ultimately, you're going to have to settle for the Void Grubs, but he is making another entry into top lane as the Shockwave takes place in mid. Chirp jumps in for an Impulse Divide, you'd have to imagine, but then instantly regrets he gets caught by the ultimate, flashes out of that one, and then we finally catch the aftermath of top lane. They've invested 2, but they do get first blood.
They managed to find a kill there in that top lane. It's the second that Zoranus goes back into that mini form, they're able to take him down. There's no Fury to come through to actually able to threaten him. And from what I was previously saying, Nox makes the impossible happen and swings the game back in Fury's favor.
Feels like he is much like a Renata, bailed himself out of a rather poor situation. Ryoma, he's really got sketchy with that one. It really is as close as you could get. Summon Airy, or rather the Arcane Comet nearly being the difference maker there. But Roma doesn't auto-attack, he doesn't get aggro, and I think Chirp was banking on that.
That is a man who knows his limits right there. Walks point blank into Chirp, tanks all of his damage, and knows that he'll still be alright to walk out. But you can see here, once again, he loses the Mega and just gets a little bit overconfident. He gets the double hop, but at that point, Tomasino is the one who's taking the turret, right? This is an incredibly tanky Udyr who is more than capable of eating these turret shots. So they managed to find something when realistically the game was looking quite dire.
Tony was looking quite dire, and it's a great way to make sure that this Udyr still remains relevant and that the Wukong can actually get themselves back into the fold of things, right? You need that Wukong to be able to step up, be aggressive, and assist the rest of the team in serving what should be a fair bit of damage. Now, we didn't really talk about it too much, but Hooper has actually gone for the lethal tempo, so it looks like they are certainly leaning towards that more on-hit variation.
That is interesting, especially given this game state, right? Typically when you do go this lethal tempo, you're expecting to be able to kind of stand in the face of the enemy carries. At this point, given how far ahead this Orianna and Kalista are, I would say that's quite optimistic. I think that he's going to get absolutely machine gunned down by this Kalista, who is very, very far ahead of the curve at this point, and a second dragon secured as well. So not only are they demolishing the bot lane turret, but they're able to make good use of this priority to secure these dragons, right? They're able to snowball, able to be on pace for a 21-minute soul with this comp, as Swiper's looking for mid.
Well, he burned his flash for it last time, but this time he will not have the same luxury. A single command attack into a little bit of damage afterwards. And it's an easy pick up there for Ioma. And you already mentioned, right, how devastating the spot lane has been. Well, mid and jungle are certainly also emulating that same level of success. And you're starting to wonder, where do Fury come back into this one? If you're looking at the Udyr, it seems like a bit of a lost cause.
And that's the thing, where are they starting the fights? Because ideally you'd want to fight around these objectives, but so far, Antic have been very happy to sacrifice the objectives that Fury want to go for, as Nox is deep behind enemy lines here.
He does not want to be here, and beautiful scouting by Draco and a fantastic roam from bot to top, and he just goes, oh, I've tried to actually get a camp, and I've run into more members than I could escape from. So things really do get from bad to worse, and I suppose it just solidifies our previous point as to where does the strength come from, and is that point already passed?
That's the thing. I think if you are Fury in this case, you have to be looking at one of these next objectives and try to just pull the trigger on them. Whether that be the Rift Herald spawning in a minute and a half, or potentially a Dragon in the 3.5. But realistically, if you're letting this game go at the current pace that it is, you're just going to simply get outpaced, right? You're going to have this Kalista getting further and further ahead as Tomasino. That slow is crippling from the ult, but here goes the Fate's Call.
We might actually get to see the impossible happen, and Udyr finally fall victim to a Kalista as he auto-attacks as much as he can. Out comes the Rend, and there is that devastating effect of just instant damage to turn things around, and that really was the saving grace right now, that the Udyr could have been a relevant factor, could have been a stone wall to try and take down, but with that down as well, with the lane swaps in their favor too, you're starting to think that everywhere is screaming Antic W.
Yep, not when you're this far ahead, and the big thing that stands out to me, Skimmy, is look at the mid lane. There is absolutely no one answering Ryoma's push here. He's able to crash this wave. He's already 37 CS up on this Azir. And meanwhile, Zoranis is more than happy to hold this bot lane, right? You're trading essentially nothing for everything on the side of Fury here. They're going to attempt to dive, but he has Mega soon.
Yeah, it felt like a play that was never really going to take place here, and it just means the opportunity cost has passed you twice now, really, hasn't it, in terms of the vision has been revealed, we know exactly where you are, so Antic can continue to be aggressive. That is a Renata 1v1ing a Varus. I don't know what I'm watching right now, but it is Draco losing. I think he just lost his call for a second. I think he got in his head a little bit too much of the flexing.
Yeah, I think Draco might have been a little bit overconfident there, not realizing that the Kalista ultimate was down, so not able to get out of dodge there, and that's just a little cheeky play there that's going to get a much-needed gold back into the pocket of this Varus, right? He is so far behind the curve of this game, but little kills like that can keep him in it, can keep him relevant alongside this Kalista, and that's exactly what you need at this point in the game.
Certainly is. You want to have a lot more economy as the on-hit Varus, right? But there goes the Shockwave. Tomasino in trouble right now. He hits the Ghost. Is it too little too late? Is there is the Turtle, and Swipe, he's flashed, but he can't catch the Udyr. He wanted a twisted advance. He'll just give us a thumbs up.
That's got to be like 1 pixel off. That really has to hurt how close that was. Ryoma, you can see, just shredding this Udyr, who has only a single null magic mantle to dissuade this Orianna, who is now very fed, and they will turn their sights to the Rift Herald. They've got the Kalista pushing in top. They've got the ability to bring her down whenever they need to. This should just be a free objective going into the hands of Antic.
Well, fast approaching 15 minutes into this game, and there's already objective bounties to be claimed here by Fury, but that will be snuffed out as Antic. Not only have they got the Void Grubs, they've got the Dragons, and now they have the Herald. They can look to try and claim their second tower, as mid is fairly low. And Chirp, hearing those words, will say, we need gold. Any way we can acquire it. I'm just going to DPS this for a hot moment.
I want to see people drive the Herald into at least 2 towers this game, Skimmy. We only got 1 last game. I want to see 2 charges.
Me too. I want to see that level of confidence. And I feel like Antic are in a position to not necessarily be BM about it, but feel confident enough to take those gambles.
We need some drifting thing. You see Mickey X in the LEC absolutely just twirl the Rift Herald around the top bush.
I haven't watched that clip
need.
yet. But I do remember when people used to be really on the point of Scion drifting, how long you can make them go around the map for.
Yeah.
That was your ability to flex on your opponents. As we look to see a potential skirmish break out around the Dragon. That's up in 10 seconds. Infernal Soul to play for. In jumps Nox, he hits the three-man Cyclone, goes berserk, and hits himself into his own demise. That is kill number 2 here for the Feds. Callista that continues to push on forward. There's a handshake as the Fates call knocks up Findo. And that is 2 easy kills to get a turret into a Dragon.
Yeah, I know that Fury needed Force of Flight, but that was about 3 postcodes too deep going in there. He had absolutely no one to back him up there. Chirp unable to get into the backline too, and this kind of reeks of desperation from the side of Fury, right? They don't want to give up this Dragon. They know they need to fight, but they just mis-execute. And on the back of that, it will be the capitalization from Antic. They have the Callista Renata to chase you down, and this game goes from bad to worse.
Let's see what happens to the replay initially. It's just Nox scouting out information, but gets dragged into the fight and says, all right, well, if I see 3 people, this is just too juicy of an opportunity to pass up on.
Yeah, he goes really far, but Hooper's hitting mid-wave and Chirp's being slowed by Maokai Sapling, so no one's actually able to get into the effective range to make this a fight worth taking, and Zoranus TP's in at the end to just make sure that absolutely nothing will come of it.
You can see right now, Zoranus is taking on the 1v1, but Nox soon to arrive. He's going to try and make that a 1v2. He's going to try and bop and block himself out of harm's way as the shockwave comes in. And it does a fair amount of damage that Roma surely now just picks up 2 as easy as you like it. There it is. The double kill with the team ready to back him up. They'll summon the Herald and they'll break that 3rd outer.
All right, here we go, Skimmy. This is the first one here from Swiper.
Yep. Oh, put the camera back up to top lane. That's all we're interested in right now. There it is.
Thank you.
Come on. Look
we
how
need the
Void
European crowd. We need them to chant. Whoa!
That's when you need chat to respond in real time to it. They'll catch this in a few moments' time. But that is just a double kill into a double tower. Would you believe it?
Yeah, massive gold swing there, right? They use the fact that Ryoma has a teleport advantage. But speaking of teleports, Chirp wants to make something happen with his.
What, he's just TP'd in? Can he hit the Emperor's Divide? Or will he die before it even happens? He's hit it, but it's done absolutely nothing. Swipe has picked up the kill. Out goes the Chain of Corruption. Here's the hostile takeover to try and make it a little bit more even. Oh, look at that. King gets pounced upon by Nox, but he does not care. He finds the double. He flashes over, hunting for more, and he looks down Hooper, since I didn't get a kill in the laning phase, but here is the triple. There is the ace. That is Antic domination.
Make it stop, Skimmy. It is 18 minutes into this game, and it is already signed, sealed, and delivered a win in the favor of Antic. Zoranus isn't even there for that fight. It's that dominant. So it starts off with a TP from Chirp. He's trying to kind of Shurima shuffle Ryoma in, but gets rooted up, so crucially not able to use his movement until the very end, at which point Ryoma reacts with the flash, and then this Callista is so fed, she just walks into Wukong point blank and kills it.
And that should be a concern in any other game, but not for this one. Literally tanks up the ultimate, laughs and flashes to continue being aggressive. I mean, this game really has, from start to finish, signed, sealed, and delivered, as you say.
No, not again.
Out of the replay and into the action again, and that is honestly, I don't even need a hull breaker, but I'll still hit these big ultimates. I mean, Nox, I think, has had a real reality check this game that if a level 1 strategy pays off, you just do not get to play the game.
He's just had horrible luck walking to camps this game. He walks his first clear, none of them are up. He walks now. There's a Zoranus in Mega Nav form that just throws you into a wall and kills you. It's very hard to play from this far behind, and really, there's a Baron up in 40 seconds. There's a Dragon Soul up in 2 minutes. Chirp will get a little gold back, but really at this point, when you're 10k down in 19 minutes, it is beyond recovery.
Well, that really is the point, isn't it? The writing has certainly been on the wall for a good few moments right now. 5 kills on both your carries. Even the Magi is now picked up here by Roma. 10 stacks completed. He knows how strong he is in this game. These shockwaves have had devastating consequences, and you can see that they're battling to have the most gold in the game, nearly at 10,000 gold. And the only body near would be Chirp at 7.
Yeah, it's all in the pockets of these carries right now. You can see the Ryoma sitting on 200 CS, 3 items completed, a little bit of Magi's to boot as well. He is absolutely monstrous at this point, and realistically, there's a little bit of magic resist, but not that much at all. You can see the one shockwave into the enemy team would basically one-shot every single carry on the side of Fury, so now it's going to be up to an absolute miracle for Fury to get back into this one.
many items this strong at only 20 minutes in. Really does feel like the game you absolutely crave as a pro player to have on a stage game, right? You can really flex your ability, all the hours you put into solo queue. But to have a game like this on stage, I'm sure is something a little bit special. The question now becomes, how do Antic decide to close this one out? Do they go for the classic, we'll start at the Baron and bait you in? Or do they decide to be a little bit more elegant with it as they look to control all 3 lanes at once?
I think if you're Antic here, you'd probably head towards the Soul first, just because the fact that Fury won't be able to really do the Baron without you getting there in time, but there is a chance that if you do the Baron first, they can steal the Soul. So I think that's what they're looking at towards now with Zoranus pushing out this bot lane and with the way that they've placed their wards. They want to secure this Dragon, they want to secure this Soul, and then put the bow on the game.
Seems to be the case. 15 seconds left. Infernal Soul, still arguably the best one to acquire. And in a game state like this, I think you are this rubbing your hands in glee, thinking, how could we get this lucky? Fury, or Nox in particular, I should say, is going to check out that Baron and say, no, they've not gone for
Nox.
it. So he might just get soloed by Ryoma. A single ultimate, he's down to half. The Baron nearly killing him with his spit. But ultimately, it is going to be the Dragon that they'll play towards, and they've really baited out Fury's anticipation.
He's going to develop a conditioned fear response to brushes after this game. He's not going to be face checking any single one. Every time he walks in, bad things happen. And the fact that, you know, this is the Wukong, this is the guy who's meant to be at the front line of your team to provide space for the rest of your comp, the fact that he's going down so quickly does not bode well.
So it doesn't bode well. And I think as far as things go in terms of thinking ahead to series number 2, I think there will be a degree of PTSD running through his mind as to how did it all go so pear-shaped and what can we look to try and change up? Because we talk about draft adaptations of sort of those knee-jerk picks. Would not be surprised if they're to try and deny away the Maokai as well. We had 5 jungle bans. Maybe we need a few more.
Maybe we do. I mean, it just looks like too much for the side of Fury here. You can see that this Baron, it's kind of a whenever we feel like it for the Antic at this point. They can shove these waves out, they can clear the vision. The one thing about this team is their experience provides them a degree of precision in terms of the way they prep for this Baron, right? They know they're not just going to go walk up and start it as Findo.
He nearly just got 3 hit by King's Ballista. That is absolutely absurd right there. Out goes the Fate's Call, knocks up 2. There's the Nature's advance to knock them all in place, or root them rather. And it's an easy picking to take down 2 more. They're just having a field day. I mean, really, they are left to their own devices. It feels a little bit like a solo game, but then they're realizing we're actually as a team, because you just got Zoranus AFK pushing waves.
Yeah, they are able to do their own thing. Wherever they go on the map, they end up winning, as the redemption isn't even going to hit from Findo there. But to my previous point, Antic is a team that are very willing to take the necessary steps, right? They are so far ahead in this game. There's like a 99% chance they can just start that Baron and they end up taking it down. But instead, they push their vision line forward. They make sure they take Nox out, turn that 99% to 100%, and that's really feeling like their chance to win this game.
You saw they even Ryoma trying to get a cheeky solo kill topside there, but Chirp quickly dodges out of harm's way. I was almost anticipating the snapback as he tries to shroom a shuffle into safety, but the snapback into reality with a massive one-shot on his head, but on this occasion, lucky to avoid it. I suppose if you talk about some of the item spikes, there's probably a point in which Shiva says, maybe I'm able to try and be competitive with King. But then you take stock of the rest of the map and says, but I can't take anybody else.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, like the items don't look too bad. I mean, he is almost down to full 1 compared to the AD carry, but here goes Swiper.
Swiper's jumped in and showcased just how tanky he is. Look how many times he got knocked up, bounced around, and chucked in. But he still lives. 20%, even with a piercing arrow. He does not care. His job was to survive, and he's done that beautifully.
He's got the Spirit Visage as well, right? So he gets a couple autos up with his passive. You can see King in the camera just absolutely having a fantastic time. And why wouldn't you be when you're this Kalista, right? The world is your oyster at this point. You can push these waves in with Baron while Zoranus hits that mid wave. And Fury, they're going to have to do something eventually as the Shockwave.
The Shockwave onto 2 nearly just lights out to both Findo and Hoover. That bot lane nearly just evaporated on a screen. I mean, that in its own is impressive, but now completely opens the floodgate to say your base no longer belongs to you. 2 inhibitors will be taking that.
2 inhibitors will be the cost of that massive Shockwave. Now, the question is whether they continue to push. There are low HP bars on King and Draku, so like before, they take the 100% play. They decide we're not going to risk it. We're not going to needlessly risk things. And for a team that's up 15-2 to be this disciplined, to be this respectful of their opponents, just speaks to the experience of these players.
It certainly does, and it speaks rather very much reminiscent of their series into Grand Zero. Even when they were down and behind, when it reached this late game point, they just had to keep waiting for that one opportunity, that one mistake, that one slip up from their opposition, and they were ready to capitalize on it. And in this occasion, right, playing from ahead, they realized that, look, we could definitely look to be a little bit cheeky and look to, you know, throw a few members down for the greater cause, but we don't want that. We want a clean, methodical game. And I suppose also it's about sending a message, because game two was certainly a little bit carnage-wise as well. The shockwave this occasion doesn't connect. He's just going to die to auto attacks.
Ryoma does not care. He just flashes the wall for a 1 in 7 Wukong. Why not? That sounds like a good trade to me. It's only a 30-second death timer, but that should be all the time that Antic needs to crack this base open. The Nature's Grasp going to find this Udyr.
And good night to Thomasina again. 40 seconds for him to figure out what they look to try and do in game two, because they need a serious turnaround here, Max. It's 26 minutes in, 17 kills to 2, and it looks like Antic are trying to hit a 20k gold lead.
Yeah, and it's looking like they might get there, Skimmy. With these last 2 turrets, they still have waves pushing in every single lane. Super's coming in now. There's no Cyclone available for this Wukong.
They can't do much. They have to watch their base fall into ruins as those Nexus towers fall on down. Same fate may soon be falling upon the members of Fury inside their base. There's no sanctuary. It is devastation. 20 kills to 2. This has been the most dominating performance of the entire split.
We wondered how Antic would look when they came back, when we actually got to see this team in action, and Skimmy, I would say that they look scary. They made light work from the minute 1 in that game. There was not a single chance for Fury to come back into that game. Every single role winning, every single lane winning. Just an absolute demolition of Fury.
It certainly was. Terrifying performance there from Antic. They're ready and warmed up. They've only played 1 series. They want more action. And they certainly found it in game at number 1. Let's see if they can close it out with the perfect 2-0 right after this break.